It is such an exciting time to be alive historically. I like to, begging permission from the Chinese, borrow an old saying of theirs, which is appropriate since they're probably going to own this country soon enough. May you be blessed to live in interesting times. And it seems that humanity is on the verge of so many great things. So many incredible historical trends are converging right now. I mean, just look at life expectancy, look at technology, look at what we're capable of. And I'm going to come back to that. But I want to say that it's easy to be scared. It's easy to look around when you believe in liberty and you understand that the government is what it is. When you understand the scam, the immorality of statism, it's easy to look at the NDAA, the military detention provision, section 1021, and go, oh my gosh, now they can legally black bag anybody in the middle of the night and make us disappear. It's easy to look at the wars and say, oh my gosh, look at this unnecessary human suffering. It's easy to look at the drug war and say, holy crap, how did we get to the point where we have 2 million Americans in jail for victimless crimes? But I look at the youth today, those of us who grew up with the internet, those of us who had it hardwired, who, and for people as old as I am, literally grew up with it, had it develop over our lifetimes. We watched our parents' generation call it a revolution, when the internet changed the way that we communicate, that we shop, that we handle logistics, that we do research. Oh my gosh, it's a revolution. That was just the start. That was just scratching the surface. And the kids today, who had smartphones in high school, the revolution that is happening with them, the paradigm shift, the philosophical revolution is something else entirely. And the power of the internet is so incredible that for those of us who now have this truth button in our pockets right here, one click away, you can lie to us, but you can't get away with it for very long. I want to get back in time about 2 million years to humanity's state of nature. Who was in charge? When we first became Homo sapiens, at the dawn of the species, let's just say freedom wasn't exactly a priority. It was survival and reproduction. And life was nasty and brutish and short, but the focus is still survival and reproduction, whether you want to deny it or not. And within our little tribal units, whoever could pick up the biggest rock was in charge. And before language, before critical thinking, before philosophy, this was actually a good thing. And if you weren't the alpha male of your little tribal unit, your odds of survival actually increased by submitting to the alpha male. By not challenging the idea that human relationships could be defined by whoever used the most force against the other. Sadly, you can still see, however, the social dynamic that existed then is alive and well today, and that for a lot of people, they are better off by submitting to the status quo. A lot of people are better off taking that government job. A lot of people are better off not questioning authority. A lot of people are able to put food on the table for their families because they're part of the system, but we're changing it. And because we are pack animals who once hunted in packs, our so-called evolutionary brain explosion allowed us to communicate and coordinate. And suddenly the guy that could pick up the biggest rock wasn't necessarily in charge. It was now the best hunter, the guy who could lead effectively in a coordinated effort that required communication and cooperation. That was the real point, I believe, at which we became truly, distinctly human. And from thenceforth, we have been evolving further and further from that state of nature to be more human and less animal. Not that we'll ever not be animals, but to have the gift of reason and logic that no other creatures on earth enjoy, at least to the extent that we do, is one that we are really only starting to realize the potential of 2 million years later. So we've gone from whoever could pick up the biggest rock was in charge to tribalism, to communism, to socialism, to capitalism with slavery, to capitalism with wage slavery, and so on and so forth. And I see this To me, freedom is simply a byproduct of our ability to apply logic and reason and see that there is a better way than dealing with each other by force and fraud and coercion. This is our destiny as a species. That ideal that we can strive towards is something that I think more and more people are embracing. Just here in America, we had a gay rights movement, a civil rights movement, and a women's rights movement. But those represent major steps forward in our ability to treat every human being with love, faith, and respect, and develop freedom not as simply as something to covet for ourselves, but a way of relating to other people, of respecting their freedom, of respecting the divine rights that we all share as human beings. But the paradigm is shifting. It's not revolution. It's the love-volution. It's a paradigm shift. The philosophical revolution, as Dr. Paul calls it. The message of liberty has to be a lot more than government is bad, statists are evil, and sheeple are stupid. No, it can't just be about that. And it's not. The message of liberty is of love and empowerment. And we shouldn't be sitting on the sidelines shaking our heads because we've realized something that others haven't. We should be right there in the game, taking charge and showing people that there is a better way. That freedom is the greatest thing we can do for our own security, because it is the greatest thing that we can do to provide for our own prosperity. And anybody who's studied Austrian economics, who understands the free market, the basic concept that when two humans interact freely in a free exchange, it's because they feel that they both benefit. This is the foundation of capitalism. And when you take that away, when you introduce violence into the equation, inevitably that possible ideal, that potential of dealing with each other, of interacting for mutual benefit at all times, is compromised. We are falling short of our possibilities every single day simply because we accept force and violence in society. And that is subtracted from what we are capable of technologically, what we are capable of in prosperity and producing a quality of life for ourselves and for our children and creating a better world for the generations to come. But maybe it's futile. Maybe if you take this view, maybe if you share this idea that I've embraced, if you share this way of looking at human history, it's easy to say, well, then it doesn't matter what we do. Maybe it's all futile. As activists, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the next generation is going to be libertarian anyways because they have the tools in front of them, the logic and the reason and the ability to do things that we never could. Imagine what we're going to have in 5 to 10 years. Just look that far out. Who doesn't want to own themselves? Who doesn't want to be free? Who doesn't want to meet their fellow human beings with the love, faith, and respect that is essential to maintaining a free society? Government is like this vestigial organ of social violence, soon to be amputated and cast aside as the useless, horrid, pus-filled leech that it is. Every one of you got the message of liberty in kindergarten. You don't hit, you don't steal. And then in church you might have learned, you don't kill. And when you did, it wasn't, don't steal unless you're an IRS agent. It wasn't, don't hit unless you have a badge and a gun. It wasn't, thou shalt not kill unless you're wearing a uniform and Barack Obama tells you to go kill people. Those were moral absolutes, and we have carved out this exception for government, this little area of moral exception, where we have instituted all of the worst of human nature. As I said, the vestigial institution of violence, of our primitive instincts, of our inability to convince each other that there is a better way, to meet each other with logic and reason, as opposed to force and violence. Government cannot stop this movement. Government cannot stop the inevitable course of humanity, because humanity marches on. The development of a free society is our destiny as a species, and it is inevitable. They cannot stop it. So you only get to decide what side you're going to be on. And once you do, once you choose freedom, you know you can't go back to sleep. When you wake up to the reality of what we are as a species and where we are going, you can't help but be compelled to help take us to this next level. So in this state of awareness, with this broader perspective, the question I find myself grappling with, is it time? Is humanity ready for the message of liberty? Or perhaps there are too many who are still stuck in the cycles of abuse and violence of the past, who are unable to see reason and logic, who are unable to get past the paradigm of statism, who will go to their graves. There are people alive today who will go to their graves and never get this message, who will never understand freedom, who will never have an opportunity to be a part of what I see as the completion of this phase of human evolution, when we get past treating each other like animals and we start treating all of us universally like human beings. So should we stand back and wait for the ideas to sell themselves? Or should we stand up, take charge, and lead the Lovolution?
It has been said that when in the course of human events, an oppression so revolts its subjects that it becomes necessary to alter or abolish the means of that tyranny. Is it that time when our Bill of Rights is defiled every day? When our adventures abroad threaten our security at home? When the Federal Reserve keeps our free nation enslaved by debt? When the people of the world tremble under the thumb of corporate imperialism? And now, our nation is drifting dangerously from freedom to fascism. So I have to ask,